On the other side of the Alan Moore film, I have another documentary. This is part of a long documentary series I've been doing on the complete history of communism. This is my new chapter. This is Communism Chapter 6 about Vietnam. East of Thailand, south of China, is the country called Vietnam. They fought for centuries to free themselves from the Chinese. They wanted independence for so long. They were free 900 years, then there came a time of tears when Vietnam was conquered by the French. Made to slave in French plantations under Western exploitation that they've not forgotten ever since. A student there called Ho left his Vietnam to go become a cook for European sailors. He lived in Harlem, London, and France, and he got a first-hand chance to see the Western world's successes and its failures. After World War I's collapse, as the world redrew its maps at the treaty meeting in Versailles, Ho attended pleading they give Vietnam its freedom, but they wouldn't even let him try. Ho knew the USA had been a colony one day, and he admired the way they had fought before him. But he saw now only communism stood up for colonies' freedoms while the capitalist world ignored him. So he began communist studies and recruited other buddies. He wrote articles that reached back home. He kept organizing on the move till the chances might improve to get the French to leave poor Vietnam alone. Then in World War II's events, when the Germans beat the French, France's colonies were now run by Japan. So Ho returned to Vietnam after decades being gone. It was time to fight for real, not just to plan. Now organizing from within with his new name, Ho Chi Minh, independence forces started growing faster. And when World War II wrapped up and the Japanese were crushed, Vietnam at last had no more foreign master. So Ho Chi Minh declared a new free country then and there, using America's old words of independence. But they had hardly settled down before the French came back around, and they wanted their old place back with a vengeance. So there began an 8-year war the world had never seen before, a tiny colony against a Western nation. And the USA, for shame, loved independence just in name. They funded France to fight this liberation. Because in 1949, the communists had won in China, so the US wanted Europe in control there. So Vietnam now had the challenge of being right between the balance of global forces all trying to have a hold there. Then, unbelievable but true, in '54 at Dien Bien Phu, France was beaten. Vietnam was free in triumph. The guy in charge on France's side even committed suicide when he realized David really beat Goliath. But the powers in the West would only compromise at best. They said Vietnam can have its own elections, but you have to wait 2 years, and right now, to calm our fears, we'll cut the country in 2 temporary sections. Communists can have Hanoi, but the US would employ a corrupt guy named Diem to run Saigon. But if voting had gone forth, it would have won things for the North, so Diem wouldn't let the vote go on. And so began a southern struggle, communist Viet Cong rebels trying to defeat this phony leader. And the North helped out a lot, but when Diem did get shot, it was from his own army, because they didn't like him either. The US was desperate for a reason now to send our big armies in, so we lied we'd been attacked in Tonkin Gulf. And the guy in charge of these naval wars was the dad of Jim Morrison of the Doors. Anyway, that's how the US got more engulfed. But if they're communists, who cares? Why are we even there? These nagging questions troubled the US. While the communists just repeated the same way France had been defeated, a total commitment to fighting off the West. And when Ho Chi Minh was dying at the age of 79, he knew US involvement soon would break. And the US did agree to withdraw troops in '73 with only death and devastation in its wake. Did Ho fight to free his land or for some communist agenda? Either way, the South was beat, the land united, and communistic land reform kept upheavals going on, with landlords killed and properties now redivided. But by 1986, the policies began to switch to incorporate more Western economics. So now, like China, it's a mix of East and Western politics with a violent weight of history upon it. Well, that's History of Communism, Chapter 6. That brings us up to Chapter 7, the Cuban Missile Crisis, but maybe I'll do that next time.